You touched on the most important thing that we heard on the call, and I think it was that cash burn continues into 2025. Worse in the front half of the year. Something like in the back half of the year, cash, there can be some generation, but it'll finish the year negative, which really leads to me to believe, right, they just got to raise cash here shortly. Because they don't want to dip underneath that $10 billion amount they need to run the company. I think also I found it interesting, away from his discussions on the culture of Boeing and how it needs to change. I think everybody understands that. We all agree. I found it interesting too. A couple analysts went at him about selling divisions. Didn't get a lot out of him, I think, on selling parts of Boeing to raise money. Look, I know he's busy. He's been first couple of days, but my guess is they've looked at ways to raise cash, and we didn't think there was much potential to sell big chunks and raise cash, and it didn't sound like Kelly had any of those on top of his list either. So I thought that was the most interesting stuff.
What did the CEO say about the serious performance lapses that Boeing has had over the last year?
Yeah, I mean, what I heard was, the serious lapses. I guess he kind of owned up to them as well. But again, I think we all knew that, and that he thought companies still had potential for a very bright future. They're part of a duopoly, large backlog, and I think he understands that they need to bring back the machinists as soon as they can. In a way where they're happy and ready to build product well, and that's the path to success. And so, but again, I think he kind of owned again the problems of the company. But we've heard this before, right? I think now the question is, how do you change it? How do you turn it around?
All right, the most immediate, milepost for this company is settling this strike, and today is the day. The rank and file out there in the Pacific Northwest are going to vote today. Any consensus how this might go?
I'm not seeing any. I mean, I'm in the camp that it looks like he has a pretty good shot of it, because again, I think, I've talked before that the union's been out now for about a month, so I'm sure they're starting to feel the pain of not having a paycheck, or at least a paycheck as large as they're used to coming in. They're pretty close to the terms that I think they're all looking for. I think the union might have been looking for 40%. I think they'll get, 35 sounds pretty darn close. I don't know if you really want to hold out for the extra 5%. And they sweetened up some of the 401k matching and some bonuses. So to me, it feels like they're pretty darn close. And given the timeline since they last all worked, it kind of feels like he might get it tonight.